cold sweat collected at my armpits. I shot out of bed, slid down the stairs, locating the source of the noise. Marks as deep as ice pick blades dug into the rafters. Before I could react, an ovoid form thrashed across the ceiling. Every movement had a visceral crunch. Popcorn ceiling and plaster rained from above. "This can't be happening," I whimpered, scurrying to my parents' bedroom and shaking my mom awake. "There's an intruder," I said, pointing to the open door. "Honey, you just had a bad dream. Take some melatonin and go back to sleep. You'll be alright." I never believed my parents' words. Whenever I saw one of those specters, they just passed by me, ignoring me. Being born with the fear of ghosts was a pain to say at the least. The horrors from my imagination flooded into reality. "It's all in your head, this and that." I'd heard it all. My heart wanted to listen, but my mind didn't. I just wanted the nightmares to end. But something was off. Ghosts couldn't make noise, right? I went back outside, my eyes widened. The holes had repaired themselves, didn't even leave traces. Did I have an hallucination? No, that couldn't be it. I saw and heard that thing burst through the ceiling like the Kool-Aid Man. Hallucinations couldn't do that. Or could they? The Colossus slammed right into a wall. Its frantic legs dug into the floorboards, rushing across the kitchen, flying across the counter. Utensils shut off like 4th of July fireworks. No doubt in my mind that my parents had heard the commotion. Double blinking, I saw that the silverware had returned to its original position. I rubbed my eyes. How could that be possible? I knew that some ghosts could induce hallucinations. Maybe that was the case. Even if it was, how my parents couldn't hear was beyond me. I stepped back, clutching the sides of my pajamas and retreating back into the hallway into my parents' room. My mom jumped out of bed, draping her hands over my shoulders. She knew I would continue with this reassurance ritual. "You have one of the most powerful imaginations I've ever known. You need not to fear it. It's playing tricks on you. I want this to stop. Listen, you need to get over this fear alone. We don't want to be harsh, but the only person that can truly get rid of this fear is you. You have to decide how you will conquer it." "No, you don't The beast rushed at me from the heights, stopping at my feet and making me trip. A Herculean form surged forward. Its exoskeleton cracked in concert with its joints. 2 hippo heads stuck out like warts on both ends. Its outline faded, clouded with a thick veil of smoke. Its canines scraped against each other with the force of tectonic collisions. The spectre wrenched one head back. Vertebrae crunched against its shell like some demanding xylophone as the other one snapped against the ground. Both heads converged on the spot of darkness right by my legs, completely ignoring my terrified form. Why was it going after my shadow? I tried to kick it, but my foot just passed through. The beast snarled, walloping me in the stomach. I skidded across the hardwood floor like a hockey puck. There's no way they didn't hear that. My dad rushed out of his room, hands out at his sides. His head darted around, wondering what the commotion was. "It's right there," I declared, sobbing in fear. "Son, what is it? I don't see anything." The cantankerous crustacean was directly in their sides, How could they not perceive it? With the ghosts, they only lasted a few seconds, but not this thing. It stood out in the open like an oblivious chicken in the middle of a field. Just what the hell was it? I shuddered at the bizarre form, its fangs gnashed together, clicking and drooling. It pounced to the left, extending its legs, overtaking me and rearing up on its back legs. I kicked it in the head, hoping it would yield, but it didn't. Again, my body just passed through it. I collapsed like a worn-down skyscraper, my extremities thrash around like noodles in boiling water. "Call an ambulance, now!" My mom took out her phone and punched the numbers in. She shouted into the phone, keeping me in her line of sight. My mom reached over me, trying to calm me down. The beast sunk its teeth into my shadow. Thorns of agony climbed up my leg, channeling towards my hips. I punched the beast in the nose. My hand collided with the floor, drumbeats of agony surging up my knuckles. It wouldn't let go. Mist conjured around the dark shape like fog across the forest. Unseen forms dragged my whole body in with my silhouette. My eyes fluttered in swirls of technicolor hysterics. Then everything cut to black. Creeping fluids and a nauseating dripping woke me up. When I looked down, my legs and torso had bleached. Furrowed, throbbing folds snared my limbs and head, pinning them to the floor. Moisture seeped into my eye sockets. Darkness and a thick, imperceptible wall surrounded my every being. Was I in the beast's stomach? Somehow I could see the top of the ceiling, but I felt acid eat away at my skin and rip apart the muscle in between. Screaming in agony, I saw my parents huddle over me and trying to calm me down. So this was it. Me, a 10-year-old boy, dying to a creature that belonged in a book. Wait a minute. The fading marks. The fact that only I can see and perceive the monster. Its abstract, undefined form. The fact that my attacks pass through its body. "Your imagination is playing tricks on you," my mom's voice rattled in my skull. "Hallucinations can induce sounds as well. This isn't a ghost, it's a tulpa." I heard my mom's words continue. "The only person that can truly get rid of this fear is you." My brow creased and my lips upturned. "You have to decide how you will conquer it." At that moment, I saw nothing but red. Chyme rose from my stomach and stung my tongue. From the folds of the gods were puddles of bubbling acid, soaking up my body, dissolving and digesting. I screamed in rage. I needed to find a way out, but how? I was defenseless inside the Leviathan's gullet. There had to be a solution. How could I defeat a monster that I couldn't even interact with? If the beast only existed in my imagination and could interact with reality, I had to find a way to get rid of it. But how? Wait a minute. Tulpas lurk in one's imagination, somehow able to manipulate reality via the mind's eye. Physical weapons had no effect. So what if I visualized and conjured my own weapon? My parents stood in shock, trying to wrench me out of my trance to no avail. I closed my eyes, ignoring slippery folds reeling in my back and legs. I pictured a handgun in my palm. I extended my pointer around an imaginary trigger. Cold steel resonated through my veins. It only showed up looking something like a shoe, but it had to do. I phantom-mimed loading and cocking it, aiming directly at the upper wall. The moment I pulled the trigger, shards of translucent shells flew everywhere. Shrieking, the outline of the monster faded away, exposing the walls and the floor below. I was free. My mother rushed in to give me a hug. Flashes of red and blue illuminated the windows outside. My limbs were practically glued to the floor. And then a group of first responders rushed up the stairs, investigating my limp form. Hands hoisted me by my back and legs, carrying me outside. The paramedics loaded me onto the ambulance, adjusting my legs against the journey. Sirens trailed off and faded as I blacked out once again. I woke up to my mother sobbing. Blinking, I analyzed my surroundings. A hospital gown surrounded me and my skin was pale as clouds. The nurse smiled, seeing that I had made a successful recovery. It didn't take long for the doctors to diagnose my condition as a seizure. I raised an arm, seeing that they had wrapped it in bandages still seeping with bile yellow fluids. My mom handed me my phone, and that brings me to where I am now, hoping my story can be heard. As doctors chatted in the background, I overheard them trying to understand how I developed acid burns. I knew what truly happened, but that didn't matter to me anyway. My parents were right. The only person that could cure my anxiety was myself. The pills and therapy did help, but I still needed to rely on myself. And that is exactly what I did.